Oh, hi. Hello and welcome back. So today is video 2 of my 4 parts Facebook series all about helping you fast track your learning journey to buttercream cake success. Okay, so if you're new to the series and if you don't know who I am, my name is Thao Armstrong and I am the founder of Don't Tell Charles. Now, my passion is to help aspiring cake makers achieve success by working smarter, not harder. Okay, now in today's video, I want to talk to you about the anxieties and the fears associated with learning something new and how you can overcome that. Okay, now cake making and cake decorating is very old school. A lot of it doesn't really apply anymore in the modern cake making world, but no one tells you that. Okay, for decades, learning a new skill usually involves doing exactly what the teacher says or what the teaching materials tell you to do. So this is how it's done, just follow it, right? There's not much understanding about the history, the context, the reasons for the things that you're learning. All you have to do is follow what you're told, okay? This might be okay, this way of learning might be okay if you're just trying to learn the basics of something, right? You're just starting out and you just need to know how it's done, okay? It might be okay, but that's the point that it will get you to and no further, okay? This method is extremely limiting if you want to advance. Now, without the proper understanding of the whys, you lack the ability to troubleshoot when things go wrong. And you lack the confidence to try and experiment new things. So this translates to the lack of ability to grow, to improve, and subsequently to achieve mastery. Okay, so today I'm going to give you a brief overview of my different approach to learning and show you how this approach has helped me in my own journey to achieve buttercream cake mastery. Okay, you ready? First things first, why a different approach? Okay, so as mentioned, cake making and cake decorating is very old school, and so is the way we are taught. Okay, tell me in the comments, do you, one, feel intimidated by the thought of learning something new? Do you associate learning with a fear of being judged? And subsequently the risk of looking like a foolish beginner? Especially where online learning is concerned, tell me, do you feel apprehensive about your ability to learn on your own? Do you feel intimidated by the prospects of having to use technology? Okay, these are all legitimate feelings and fears. And I know because I've been there. Okay, I feel you. The problem with the traditional methods of teaching and learning where you just do whatever you're told is that it exacerbates these fears, okay? If you do what you're supposed to do and then you fail, well then the problem lies with you, doesn't it? I've always felt frustrated by this. Because I believe that everyone deserves to learn in their own way. Okay, there's no one way that will work for everyone, and certainly not the traditional way of just do what you're told. Okay, I've always been frustrated by this. Okay, so the traditional methods of learning just never really made sense to me. So it was up to me to find a way to learn that was compatible with how I take in information. Okay, so here's my approach. Let me bring up my screen for you. Okay, number one. It is simply not enough to just do what you're told, okay? I know that sounds rebellious and I'm a little bit of a rebel, but yeah, it's simply not enough to just do what you're told, okay? Seek to move away from the old way of learning, which is to just do what you're told. Okay, there's a plane that's just going by the window. Not literally, but it's flying over and you might hear it. So I'm just going to wait for it to pass before I continue. Here. Okay, so number 1, it's not enough to just do what you're told. Okay, so seek to move away from the old way of learning, which is this is how things are done, just follow it, to a new way of learning, which is to understand how things are done. Okay, I always seek to understand why. It is extremely powerful when you start asking why about everything. Okay, why? Well, because once you start to understand the science, the reason, the ideas behind a certain recipe or technique, you will gain a certain confidence in your knowledge. Okay, and once you possess this confidence, you will develop complete trust in your own ability to learn, to apply, and to adapt. Okay, asking why gives you the ability to learn on your own terms. So that's number 1. Okay, not enough to just do what you're told. Always seek to ask why. Now, number 2. Okay, aim to maximize efficiency while aim to maximize efficiency while maintaining quality. Okay, we're not minimizing anything, we're maximizing efficiency while maintaining quality. And this is pretty much the motto here at Don't Tell Charles. Okay, so here I want you to start valuing your time, your physical, your emotional, mental well-being, as well as your creative energy. Okay, you don't have an infinite amount of any of these, so you should start to really value these resources. I touched on valuing your time as your most valuable currency in the first video. Okay, your time and efforts are your times and effort are your most valuable currency, so use them wisely. The motto here is simple. Seek to work smarter, not harder. Okay, aim to maximize efficiency while maintaining quality. I'm going to give you an example of these two approaches and how this has helped me in my own learning journey. Okay, so are you ready? I'm going to give you a crash course in buttercream making. Okay, so let's look at the types of buttercream out there. Okay, so there are a plethora of different types of buttercream, but I'm just going to give you an overview of the 4 most popular buttercream types that are used right now. Okay, so 1, you've got American buttercream. Okay, American buttercream is basically butter and icing sugar that are beaten together until they're fluffy. There is a lot of icing sugar in American buttercream, and this sugar is added straight to the butter, so it's not fully dissolved, which is why American buttercream usually has a very grainy texture, slightly gritty mouthfeel, and the sweetness is also kind of cutthroat. Okay, personally, I don't really like American buttercream, but it's one of the oldest and most used type of frosting. Okay, so you've got American buttercream, which is usually called ABC in short. Okay, and then you've got meringue-based buttercreams, which have become very popular lately. So under the meringue-based buttercream umbrella, you've got Swiss meringue, you've got Italian meringue, you've got French buttercream, and then you've got DTC, which stands for Don't Tell Charles buttercream. Okay, so I'm going to talk about American, Swiss, and Italian first. Okay, no, not American, sorry. I'm going to talk about Swiss, Italian, and French first. Okay, so these buttercream use similar methods. Okay, so I'll go Swiss meringue buttercream basically involves you pasteurize egg whites, so just egg whites. So what you do normally is you combine the egg whites with some sugar syrup, you put that over a double boiler, and you kind of gently mix it. What that does is pasteurize the egg whites, okay? And then you use that egg whites, whip it up to a meringue-like consistency. Once that meringue cools down, so you keep whipping, all right? Once that meringue cools down, you then add room temp butter into the mixture and then beat it some more. Okay, so that's Swiss meringue. Italian meringue also uses egg whites and sugar syrup, but the process in combining these two parts slightly different. So what you do is you whip up the egg whites in a stand mixer straight away, and then you heat sugar and water, make that into a syrup. You take that syrup up to 116 degrees Celsius, and then you start pouring that syrup into the egg whites. So that makes Italian meringue, okay? And then from that point on, it's the same as Swiss meringue buttercream. You add soft butter or room temp butter into the meringue mixture, mix it until it comes together, okay? Then you've got French buttercream. Now, French buttercream uses the exact same method as Italian, but it only uses egg yolks. Okay, so the yolks don't really whip up to a meringue-like texture. It just kind of gets thick and creamy. But the method's the same. You whip up the yolks until it's thick and creamy, and then you pour in sugar syrup that's been heated to 160 degrees Celsius. And then once that mixture whips until it's cooled down, you add room temp butter to it, mix it until it comes together. Okay, so if you've made meringue-based buttercream before, whatever I've said would sound very familiar. Okay, if you haven't made any of these before, compared to American buttercream, it might sound a little bit, complicated because there's a few more steps involved. But what all of these buttercreams have in common, the Italian, the Swiss, and the French, what they have in common is a really smooth consistency and a very delicate taste to the buttercream. So the sweetness, because the sugar is actually dissolved, so the sweetness is not as cutthroat as American buttercream, okay? And the buttercream texture is extremely smooth, which is why these buttercreams have become very popular lately. Now, that's pretty much the basic of your kind of buttercream types, okay? Now, Swiss, Italian, and French buttercream, they're not new recipes, all right? They're pretty old school. They date back, a few decades. They've just become popular as of late. The common thing about these three recipes, right? The way that two of them use egg whites. So there's Swiss and Italian, they use egg whites. The French use egg yolks. The way you incorporate sugar into them is different, but the way you incorporate butter into them is the same. Okay, so all of these recipes traditionally all call for you to add the butter, which is supposed to be room temp, 1 cube at a time. So whatever the amount of butter that is called for in this recipe, you're supposed to cube them, right? Chop them into little cubes, and then you're supposed to stand there and chuck in 1 cube at a time, okay, until however many 100 grams or kilos of butter you have is done. So it's a very, very time-consuming process. And what happens usually in these traditional recipes is that you're standing there and you're adding 1 cube at a time, right? And then the mixture starts to curdle, and it looks like, oh my God, I've done something wrong, and you freak out. But then you're supposed to wait and wait some more and wait for like another 20 minutes, keep beating until the butter and the egg mixture somehow come together, okay? So these traditional recipes is, one, very time consuming. Two, it's anxiety inducing because trust me, if you've made one of these before, you know what I mean. Seeing the mixture curdle, and it curdles for so long, it makes you anxious, okay? Now, I'm going to talk about DTC buttercream. Okay, so when I first started making buttercream for my cupcakes some 10, 11 years ago, I didn't like American buttercream. I never liked American buttercream. So I came across I came across French buttercream first. So remember, French buttercream uses egg yolks, all right? And it's delicious. French buttercream is usually used in, those opera cakes where it's got like a thin layer of sponge, a thin layer of coffee buttercream. So French buttercream's delicious. But if you're a student of buttercream cake mastery, you will know that French buttercream is not stable enough to use in tall and structured cakes, all right? So I started using French buttercream, and then I found out the hard way that it's not stable enough. And then I heard about Italian buttercream, which uses the same method as French buttercream, but it uses egg whites. So then I started experimenting with these two methods, and basically what I end up doing is merging them together, changing up the ratios of the recipe, obviously, and that's how DTC buttercream was born. Okay, so DTC buttercream uses whole eggs, which means that you don't have to waste any time separating eggs, right? And you don't have to put up with wastage, because if you do French, then you're just using the yolks and then you're going to find something to do with the whites, and vice versa. If you use Swiss or Italian, then you have to use the whites and then, you know, potentially waste the yolks. I know that if you make a lot of Swiss and Italian, you can get egg whites in a carton. But anyways, the idea behind DTC buttercream using whole eggs is that you're not wasting anything and you're not wasting time separating the eggs. Okay, so that's one. DTC buttercream doesn't require the buttercream to be cubed and added in slowly. Okay, you don't have to do any of that. This means less prep, no freaking out, and you can multitask because you're not required to stand there next to the stand mixer throwing in butter at once. So you can just let the mixer go and then you can go and do the dishes or something like that. So it's extremely efficient. Okay. So the result is a very silky smooth, delicious tasting buttercream that is suitable for tall structure cakes, but it takes half the time to make. Okay. Quality, tick. You can make a batch of buttercream, of DTC buttercream in 15 minutes, okay? Time saving, tick. So let me show you a quick video of the butter hack that we use. And this is what I teach my students in Buttercream Cake Mastery. This is the butter hack that we use when we make DTC buttercream, but you can also use this hack for any meringue-based buttercream to cut your time, okay? So let me play you that video now. Okay, so that video was posted to the Don't Tell Charles Instagram. If you're after more quick tips like that, feel free to head over to our Instagram account, okay? So as you can see in the video, what we do is we just heat up the whole lot of butter and then we chuck it all in at once. So it eliminates any of that pain from having to cube the butter, add it in slowly, okay? So the reason why I was able to experiment and then subsequently create this new recipe that met my needs, which I then teach to thousands of students worldwide, was because when I was learning, I used my different approach. Okay, so now I'm going to take you back to the start of the video when I talked about my different approach to learning. Okay, so I seek to work smarter, not harder, which is why I refuse to, accept a recipe that requires me to stand there and cube butter and chuck it in. Okay, so one, I seek to work smarter, not harder. And two, I questioned traditions. Okay, I questioned why. And the why question in this instance was, why do we have to add butter in 1 cube at a time? Okay, since we're here, I'm going to tell you why, obviously. So it's got to do with the temperature of your butter, okay? Cold butter doesn't emulsify properly. So emulsified is just another word for combine, okay? So butter is fat, and when it's cold, it just doesn't like to combine with other things really well, okay? So most often, room temp butter is still quite cold, and these recipes call for room temp butter, but most often room temp butter is still too cold, okay? So if you add butter that is colder than 20 degrees Celsius to your mixture, to your meringue mixture, it will cuddle. It will curdle, okay? This is why in the traditional recipes, you would only add a small amount of butter at a time, and then you would rely on the mixing action in the bowl to create heat, which then soften that little bit of butter, which helps it emulsify. And then you add another little bit of butter in, you wait until the mixing action creates more heat, soften it, and emulsify it, okay? So that method probably came about back in the days when the microwave didn't exist, okay? Now it does. So there's no reason why you have to do that anymore. All you need is butter at the correct temperature to help the emulsification process and speed it up. So that's why what we do is we chuck the whole lot of butter in the microwave, warm it up. 21 degrees Celsius is ideal. You warm it up in the microwave, and then you just chuck in the whole lot. And as you've seen in the video, you know, that whole video has been cut, but in reality, from when you chuck in the whole lot of butter until when the whole egg mixture disappears, which means it's incorporated into the butter, is less than 60 seconds. Okay, in the traditional recipes, you're probably standing there for a good 10 minutes waiting for that to come together. So temperature manipulation doesn't just relate to buttercream making, okay? Temperature manipulation is essential in the whole buttercream cake making process, from filling to piping to smooth covering to sharp edges, okay? But that's a whole entire system in itself, and that's something that I can't get into in like a 20-minute video, but I teach that in my course, Buttercream Cake Mastery. Okay, so just for today, let's recap the key takeaways. I have this thing where I switch words around. Key takeaways, not tea takeaways. Okay, anyway, so let's recap the key takeaways. Okay, so 1, it's not enough to do what you're told. Okay, always seek to understand why things are done the way they are. Number 2, value yourself. Okay, seek to work smarter, not harder. Okay, so I'm going to let that sink in for a bit, but that's it. So that's it for part 2 in my 4 parts Facebook series. Okay, I'd love to continue these conversations with you. Doesn't mean, you know, the video ends, doesn't mean that this conversation ends. I'd love to continue the discussion, so feel free to leave me a comment in the comment sections under the video. Let me know if you had a light bulb moment while you're watching this video. Let me know if you have the whys already that you want to ask, you know. Let me know if you've tried my butter hack or if you're going to try it. So let me know if you have any questions as well, okay? You can also get in touch and continue this discussion in our Instagram community or on our email list. So as always, I will put the links for all of these in the video description, okay? So I can't wait to continue this discussion with you, and thank you for watching today. In a few days, I will be putting up video 3 of this 4-part series, so keep an eye out, okay? Bye for now.